Welcome to the Sharing Without Shame podcast, dedicated to parents and anyone else who loves someone in active addiction. Education is a powerful tool in breaking down stigma, fostering understanding, and ultimately helping individuals and their loved ones navigate the challenges of addiction. With Donna Marston, author of Peeling the Onion and Sharing Without Shame. So take a deep breath and grab some tissues as we uncover the stories of love, courage, and unwavering support in the face of adversity, as Donna and her guests share their stories without shame. Because when we share our stories without shame, we inspire others to do the same.
Hello, and welcome to Sharing Without Shame podcast. I'm your host, Donna Marston, and this podcast is brought to you by Snap Bands, and here is my band. It says blessings, and you just give it a little snap. It's cognitive therapy that takes away any negative thinking so that you can move forward, live a healthy, happy life. If you'd like to order one, go to Snap Bands, that's SNAPPBANDZ.com, and in comments put SWOS or Sharing Without Shame so they know that you heard it from me. And so today I would like to welcome Austin Wynn, who is the CEO and founder of Never Alone Recovery. Austin and his team emphasize personalized care that addresses the physical, emotional, and spiritual dimensions of addiction. So welcome, Austin.
Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. I'm so excited to interview you. First question I'd like to ask you is, what would you like to share without shame?
Oh, I think that sometimes even being clean for 7.5 years, life can still be miserable, but I couldn't be happier to be here. I don't know how to explain it. That it sometimes it's still difficult, but it's a different kind of hard. And it's just such a relief to not. I basically had a long conversation with someone very close to me that is finally going to get some help. And like it, because they're close to me, it hit me a little bit differently to where I basically cried for like 3 or 4 minutes after I got off the phone, because it had been maybe a few months since I'd been that close to the desperation from somebody I know, love, and care about and have known for a while, and it put me right back there.
Yeah.
Like it put me right back there. And I've been thinking a lot about what I just said since then. And it's really, I think sometimes I get a little caught up in like, this sucks. I hate this. Things are hard and I don't like this. But at the end of the day, it's like, this is nothing compared to that. And I think that that's something I don't think enough people talk about, that sometimes it still absolutely sucks. But it's a lot easier to get through it and deal with it when you're clean. And the reality is that it sucks for everybody sometimes.
Well, that's life, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not exclusive to people in recovery,
Right.
which I like to think it is sometimes.
Yeah. I mean, we all have days like that, or sometimes it's months.
Yeah.
I can tell you, the month of June was horrific for me. I had all this stuff, and I just think it goes in cycles. But when
Did
you
you
love
learn anything
somebody,
about yourself in that difficulty?
pardon me?
Did you learn anything about yourself in that difficulty of June?
Oh God. Yeah, that I'm strong, and that, you know, it was a very serious illness, and I just chose to keep a positive outlook, and by the grace of God, I'm gonna be okay.
Okay. Well, I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you're okay.
Thanks. So anyway, this isn't about me, Austin.
No, it should be. It should be. It's just about the story. That's what people
Yeah,
watch it for.
yeah,
You give
yeah,
them something real. It's not manufactured. It's not bullshit. It's the truth.
yeah.
People follow you because they like you. So I think it's good once in a while. I feel like it's too much about everybody else, probably.
Well, hey, you know.
When do you get interviewed?
Oh, I do. I go on
Okay,
podcasts and I get
good.
interviewed and I do my thing, and yeah, and I love that piece of it, getting
Yeah.
out there and sharing my story, because you just never know, who you're going to touch.
Yeah.
Who's
Well,
ready to hear your message or my message?
yeah. Well,
You
that's what I
know,
was going to ask based on what I shared. Do you feel like what you've been through in the last month, was it the same kind of hard as it was going through watching your son go
no,
through it? Not even close, right?
not even close, because he might, even though he's 41, he's my baby.
Yeah.
And it's very different because I would have given everything up to save him. I would
Yeah.
have given sold my soul, or take me. I used to pray, take me, and give him back his life, give him a healthy, happy life. Yeah.
Mm.
And I think one of the things is the power of prayer.
Yeah.
And whether you believe in a power greater than you can still pray, right?
Yeah.
And one of the things that I've learned over the years is praying with a positive attitude and a thought process. So instead of saying, like, I don't want to be sick, and I don't want to, have cancer, and I don't want to have this or that, it's, I want to live a healthy, happy life.
Yeah.
Or I have a mantra that I say that I can't think of right now, and that's how, like, when my son was in active addiction, I used to pray, like, have him stop doing drugs and have him stop doing this, but I realized the universe doesn't understand the word don't. So I had
Mm.
to turn things around and pray that he lived a happy, healthy life.
Yeah. My sponsor in the very beginning taught me something. There's someone that I strongly disliked for good reason. They were not a good human being, didn't treat people well. But the resentment I had towards the person was infecting other areas of my life and other people that were connected to this person that don't deserve to be resented, the people I love. And when he told me, I wanted to punch him because it annoyed me. I thought it was the stupidest thing. He's like, well, how much have you been praying for the guy? That he gets everything he wants and more. And I was like, never, none. Why would I? That's the opposite of what I want. I want the opposite of that. Um, but I tried it, and I'm not kidding. Within 20 days, maybe 2 weeks, 3 weeks, it was gone. And
Mm,
it's been gone. And it's never come back to the point where I have compassion for like, there's times where, like, it's a complex dynamic, but like where I even wanted to invite this person to holidays, as weird as that would be for everyone, just because I felt bad that they were alone.
yep.
And it's like, you realize, like, I don't know, I realize is that, like, they like so it's saying that they haven't recovered, like, you spot it, you got it. I only hate you because I don't like that I'm seeing myself in you. I don't like this
Mm,
mirror right now. It's no
isn't
good.
that the truth?
Yeah. And it doesn't have to be how I am right now. I hated this guy because I was like that years ago.
Yeah. Yeah. So it just kind of would bring up those emotions that you haven't healed. Would that
Yeah.
be a correct
And
statement?
yeah, and it's hard to know, like, where is this even, when is this even from? Is this
Yeah.
about right here, right now? Like, what if this is about 10 years ago? Something traumatic I went through. Like, it's hard to know unless you really sit down with it. Like,
Mm-hmm.
the work required is not easy, but it's beyond worth doing.
Mm.
But yeah, I didn't realize that, like, everything that was hanging around as far as my feelings behind this person were from times in the past in which I feel like I felt the same way, was the same way to a much lesser degree, but still a little whiny, a little controlling, a little manipulative, you know? And
Mm-hmm.
I hated seeing that because it's like now I'm seeing the other side of it. It's like when we see the consequence of it, like I'm seeing what effects that had on someone else, someone that I love, and I don't like it.
Yeah.
So I'm just looking at me. It's not even about him or you or anybody else. It's just about me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's like no one wants to acknowledge that.
So if can we talk a little bit about your journey?
Sure.
How not a lot about your addiction, because, I think most listeners know about that stuff, but your pathway to your recovery, how long did that take? How did you get started? What was it all about that got you, that started your journey using drugs to self-medicate?
So, to the best of my knowledge, it started when a close friend took his own life when I was 4 or 15 because it's no one really addressed it. Just kind of go back to school, you'll be fine. but you're not fine. But also you don't know what I mean, you're 15. You have no idea what you're feeling.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't blame anybody else. Like, I think it was handled in the right way. Like, no, but it is what it is. And I think that pain was just too much to carry personally.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just that. I think it was a number of things leading up, and that was kind of the catalyst. That was kind of like, you know, you can carry a bag of rocks uphill, and sometimes it's the smallest pebble that becomes just too much weight to bear. And I
Mm.
think that wasn't a small pebble, but it was definitely a big one that was too much weight to bear, and then it all just kind of fell apart. And the first time I got high, it was just like, like I could breathe for the first time, relief, like peace, escape, all of that, and then some. Yeah, I just always think of it in my head as like you're in a pool that's just 1 inch deeper than you are tall, and you might be able to barely, you know, squeak your nose out for a breath or two, but it's not sustainable. And
Mm.
yeah, getting high was the life raft for me in that moment. It quickly becomes an anchor, but in that moment it was the moment of relief, and it just kind of escalated because in that I found other little dynamics. Like, I didn't have to really get to know anyone. I could immediately have benefit, value, and friends by just simply middlemaning these drugs, like just being the guy that has the access that can get it for you, do whatever. So, like, you know, it's like little high school stuff when you're 14, 15, where it's like, hey, we all got $20, let's get some weed. I wanted to be the guy that goes and gets it.
Oh, okay.
And it
And
just
no
kind
fear
of,
of getting caught.
oh, back then, I mean, you're always scared, but I also thought I was smarter than everyone else. So, you know, there's a little bit of ego in there too. But
Yeah.
yeah, no, I wasn't that worried at the time. Like, caught by the police, no. Caught by my parents, yes. I was more afraid of my mom than I was of the police. But yeah, it just kind of escalated. Then a friend of mine, his grandma passed away, and like she just had a plethora of narcotics, like in
Mm.
like a literal moving box full of narcotics that she had never used. And he was like, hey, you want to help me clean out her? I need some help cleaning out her garage or something. I was like, okay. And that was kind of it for me because I was like, just boom, like instant escalation. Drugs I never tried, pills, stuff like that. And it was like opiates was when it finally was like really a relief. Like beyond that, where it's like I feel whole for the first time. Like I feel okay with being alive. I feel happy. And then it just like it's all downhill from there, pretty
Mm.
much. But I went through it maybe about a decade of putting myself, my family through everything from 15 to 25, pretty much. I remember I was in treatment right after my 26th birthday. So 11 years, I guess, technically.
Yeah. Interesting, because my son started about 15 and he found his recovery at 25.
Huh.
What was your pathway to recovery?
Oh, man. I mean, I went to a ton of like IOPs, outpatient programs, went to a bunch of Suboxone doctors. Like I did all that for a long time. Doesn't didn't have any effectiveness for me. I'm not a big believer in outpatient as a first measure anyway. It seems kind of stupid. Why would I go for like the least committed outcome, least committed process to try and get a huge outcome on the first try? I'd rather try the best thing first, you know, but whatever. But I did that, and then I got kind of introduced into the 12-step fellowship that I take part in. And that was my first introduction to recovery because it was the first time I think I really like saw people living a life like it was because like when you're an IOP, like you could call it choosing to be there because you legally and literally are, but like, you know, most of us were there because the parents or wife or husband or the law said you need to be here.
Right.
Versus this room I'm in, it's like these people are choosing to be here. That kind of blew my mind. And I met a couple other young guys in recovery that had like a few years clean, which was like, holy shit. So they're giving me rides and stuff. And, you know, just feeling like I was a part of like a little group. You know, we all had this like mission that I wasn't participating in. I was getting high the whole time. But something about it just kind of seemed wonderful. Like it was just like, wow. And then I did what I did until finally I was back home with my parents. Like this is when I was 25, 26, like living with them again, which is depressing. And I had kind of held it together, going to meetings, not being clean at all. It's total bullshit. But I was in the fellowship. Like I was chairing me because I thought I was clean in a distorted, sick, delusional way because I wasn't doing my drug of choice. So I was like, I thought I was clean enough, which is nonsense. But at the time, I was buying what I was selling. So I had those relationships. So when I went away to treatment the last time, because ended up being a weird, whack place. It was a Scientology rehab. It was insanity and it was uncomfortable. And they don't tell you that when you come in. It's not like I knew. They just mislead you and check your insurance and get you in the door. And so that definitely helped because it made me just want to go back to the 12-step fellowship. Like, oh, that's like a normal thing. This is insanity. And I didn't want to be part of this. But like I was saying when we talked before, I think that it's hard to say it, but like I'm nervous to call it divine intervention sometimes, but it's hard to not tell the truth that like it was just a moment. I think where I felt free from getting high for the first time when I was sitting in treatment, and I was like, I know what I'm going to do with my life. And I just started doing it. Like literally from the moment I was in there, I started writing, brainstorming, talking to people about it. Like, I'm going to build this organization. It's going to be way better than this. Because nobody even talked to my parents since I got there. There's no family support services. They didn't check to see no one gave a shit. They just want to bill my insurance, get me in, get me out, and turn me into their cult. That's all they cared about. Because they had a sober living house where they'd let you drink. And they would kind of openly advertise that to clients. Like, hey, you could work here right when you're done with treatment and be like some grunt level role where you're just kind of walking people to group and stuff like that, paying terrible wages. But we'll put you up in the sober living. It's a party, man. It's a good time. We could drink and blah. And I was like, what the hell? Like, what the hell are you doing? And like, luckily, I knew enough to know like that's fucked up. I don't want to be a part of that. Like, there's a small piece of me that was like old me pre this moment would have ran with that. Like, sign me up. Everyone's gonna think I'm working for a rehab. What are my parents gonna say? They're gonna be happy as hell, and I'll still get to party.
Yeah.
And luckily, I had my moment before then, and I just wanted to create a better way that included the family because again, it just didn't. The whole thing didn't sit right with me, and like that was it. I had the moment. I knew what I needed to do, and I started. And I've never looked back.
And when did you start?
Never alone recovery.
Yeah. So let's talk about that.
Yeah.
So Never Alone Recovery, it's not rehab. It's not an IOP.
No.
It is, if I understand it correctly, people contact your organization, you do interventions, and you find the resources for people to seek treatment or help.
Yeah, we're the connector. Like our goal was to just always be the facilitator and connector to ensure that like everything got done. Like I think a good analogy is kind of like logistics. You know, like people are figuring out like how do we get this from point A to point B, get it all done in a way that everyone's happy and make sure that along the way everyone's getting the best that they can get. That's what we do. So like if a family calls, like we're not just addressing the person who's struggling with addiction. It's like we're addressing the family. We're connecting them to resources. So like, let's say someone calls and says, hey, I do want to go to treatment and everything gets arranged to where they just say yes and they go, then what happens to the family? You know? So like from there, then we're connecting them with like therapeutic resources, our family support group. In the future, I'm sure there will be some things that maybe we do together for family support services because that's at the end of the day, like we want a holistic outcome. Interventions, we always tell families there's two goals here, one of which can be easily achieved. The other one is a little bit harder, but if we do the first one, it's almost all but guaranteed. And the first one is to create our sacred circle with that family to basically begin to facilitate the healing process within the family. The person struggling with addiction is not in that circle and doesn't have to be. The reason that they don't heal is because there's that broken link in the chain that whole time. Where they're sitting there waiting for them to be in the circle, not realizing that the circle can close without them for now. And it can actually motivate them to join. So again, we can begin the healing process day one. the family is usually in a much better place to begin that process, right? Because they're often not struggling with alcoholism or heroin addiction. In most cases, like their addiction is the chaos of their loved one. So we help them navigate that and then get them hopefully to the realization they're like, okay, it's not my fault. I didn't cause it. I can't control it, and I sure as hell can't cure it. Okay. Now we've got to start, because that burden of guilt is like the main barrier between like finding that relief and joy and staying stuck on the other side of the problem. So when we do all this, our goal is to heal that whole system. I've said it a million times, but like addiction is dynamic and progressive and affects entire family systems. Entire family systems. You can't heal one part of the system, then put it back into a body that is not healthy and expect that it's not going to overtake it again.
Right.
Like you must heal the whole thing. High tide raises all ships.
Yep.
And that's what we aim to do in every way. And then the last thing I'd say we do is that it's really just the awareness piece of like making it known that there's other people going through exactly what you're going through. Your story isn't, not saying you're not important or special, but your story's not unique. It just isn't. As much as everyone loves to believe it is, it's not. There is a boilerplated template of how addiction goes. And you fit in one of those 10 models, if there's 10, for example. So our goal is to really just create that awareness, share our own personal stories. So it's like, look, I'm not expecting anything from anyone other than to tell the truth. Like, I'm going to tell you my story, my experiences, I experienced it. It is what it is. Never can be a lie because it's what I experienced.
Right.
And that way it's like, I don't know, I don't remember who said it, but someone very prolific said it, that like human action cannot be changed. Like it's very difficult to change human action through manipulation, but it can be done through inspiration. And when it's done through inspiration, that's when you get a dynamic and systemic change, which is what we actually want. We want a systemic change, not a singular one.
Well, I know firsthand that family members can be toxic to their loved one's recovery if they're not educated, and if they don't work some sort of a recovery program.
Yeah. Always a good friend of mine, when someone asked him, like, how does addiction start? I think he put it one of the best ways I've ever heard, that, the genetics load the gun, but the environment pulls the trigger. Which I think then brings some culpability to the family, because it's on all of us. It's not one of us.
Yeah, well, I have a bunch of workshops I do, and one of them is the family roles that everybody takes on, and it's amazing to watch the family members kind of squirm a little bit when they identify that they're part of the problem. And then it's how do we be part of the solution? Because we don't realize we're part of the problem when we're part of the problem.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Denial in and of itself tells you I don't exist.
Well, it's
the
a
hardest
part.
It's the hardest part. I think that's good though, because like I've always found that shame, blame, and guilt, they don't get me where I want to go.
Right.
As good as it feels to assign them, it doesn't actually help anyone.
Yeah. And I think that happens a lot with the person in active addiction and the loved ones. We're all pointing our fingers, blaming each other. And what does it do? It just breaks down the relationships.
Right.
And so it's really, how do you rebuild them so everybody lives a healthy, happy life?
Yeah. Agreed. 100%.
So do you have personalized care plans with Never Alone Recovery? Do you address the physical, emotional, and spiritual dimensions?
Yeah. I mean, our whole system sorry, I went off on a tangent. You already kind of asked me that. Our whole system is built kind of on like a couple of pillars, which you just mentioned. So like the spiritual, the emotional, the physical, and then relational. So relationships, I think, is kind of put them, sometimes I use different words, but you get the gist. The goal is to basically create something comprehensive. So it's not just like, hey, let's go to treatment for 30 days. It's all done. Great. I did it. Awesome. That's a fraction of the work, an important part of the work, and often the biggest hurdle. It's the beginning of the work. And so our goal is to put people in a position to succeed, to where like it's not just treatment and done, it's treatment and then, which a lot of times is connecting them locally, because a lot of people that do reach out to us are local, with the 12-step fellowships in the area, other peer support resources. We have a couple recovery coaches on staff that are available and accessible to kind of just be. We just need to create like these little anchors that they can come back to whenever they get too far away from home and a little bit afraid and using's on the whatever it is. Our goal is just to kind of create these little checkpoints so that nobody falls through the cracks and so that they always know where they need to go if they're in, compromising spot. Like if they're they're at a family event, all of a sudden everybody's drinking and they're really uncomfortable. Like, what do I do? Like, we want to help build them a network of people that can be there to support them in their everyday life. Because like, I can't answer the phone at 3 a.m. all the time. I just can't. I have a bunch of little kids. It's just not reasonable, nor should anyone expect me to do that by myself. But there's like 15 people now you can call that go through a list of 15, you'll get one. And that's kind of the goal, is to put people in a position to succeed by helping them begin to craft that plan, which then gets kind of formalized in treatment. And then when they get back, helping to be that like support resource as they, act and live as a person in recovery now based on that plan and what they've learned.
Now, do you partner up with any other local businesses or statewide or nationwide?
Not really.
No.
Not really. On a partnership facility for like what we do have treatment partners like across the United States. So like everywhere from California to the East Coast. I will say that the West Coast has done a much better job. I agree with the model more than I do anywhere else. I don't like the hospitalization model. I think it's terrible. And I also do believe in a longer term of care with a higher standard throughout. And they do that very well. A lot of those programs do a great job facilitating 90-day programs that step down, obviously, as you get from acute phases to the lower phases.
Oh, nice.
Our process is pretty straightforward. Like if you want to, I guess, partner with us in that capacity, because it is partnership. I was thinking more so of like outreach organizations, which I think mostly full of shit, so we don't deal with any of them. Sorry. But yeah, as far as the treatment providers, yes. So basically it goes as follows. Like you reach out to us and you're like, hey, we're a great treatment center. And I just basically say, prove it. You're going to bring me out there. I'm going to meet the executives, from the CEO down to the marketing guy. I will need to get to know what you think you have here, why it's so special, why is it different, how are you compliant, why are you doing this, and then the last question, which is like, how are you going to make the difference in these people's lives should they find you, right? And if all of them pass the sniff check there, then we see the grounds, we see the facility, literally walking through the bedrooms, the house, to make sure everything is as they say it is. Right? You don't want to go in and see like a roach infested, disgusting room, but on Google, the pictures are beautiful.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So we like to be, again, because I ended up in the place I ended up, I like to be kind of that third party tool to help kind of validate what they present themselves as, and also to meet the people running it, because that's the personality it's going to take on. Like the person who's in charge, if they're, have integrity and seem transparent, then it's probably gonna be a great program. But sometimes that's not the case. So I have to see it with my own eyes before I'm willing to work with them in any capacity. So if they pass all of that, then basically they get an advantage over everyone else, which is like we have our own little small network. So when people call, here's your options. These are the best ones that we've all vetted ourselves. Take it or leave it.
Yeah.
And a lot of people reach out to us. So the benefit to them is clear. They want more patients coming to their facility that are willing to do the work and get clean and stay. And they will have access to more people knowing about them than they ever did before if they pass all of those checks and inspections. And then a lot of them ended up bringing us on to do all of their marketing, all of their websites, social media, etc. Just once they kind of saw what we did with Never Alone. And that's kind of how we've kept the whole thing going.
Wow. And how long have you been doing this?
7 years.
Wow. That's awesome.
Long time.
Well, it's nice because, I think you're the first person or company that I found that's the in between, that you can go to, you make the connections instead of, my son was in and out of treatment, and I mean, some of them were horrific.
Yeah, but if that's my facility, I'm not going to tell you that. You know what I mean? And that was kind of the thinking. Is like, okay, it's the only way to remain impartial. The second I go and own the facility, which maybe one day, I don't know, probably not though. It doesn't sound that enticing. It sounds like a nightmare to run a facility. I like what we do. We're on the ground, we're in the
Yeah,
trenches. That sounds terrible. But
yeah,
if I own the facility, I want you to come to me. Like, I want you to go to treatment. If you're reaching out for treatment, absolutely, we're going to get you there.
mhm,
But the goal is to find the right fit because it's not for everybody. For instance, someone just went, right? We just concluded an intervention. It was a success. Alcoholic, 50, 51 or so. You put that guy in a room full of, like me when I first went to treatment, like 19-year-old heroin addicts that are just psychos and just full of shit. And I was a child. The the peer bond is not going to grow. It's unlikely.
mhm,
On top of that, the whole culture of the facility will shift in a way that's not conducive to success for that person, the older
right,
alcoholic, right?
mhm,
Whereas we work with one like executives facility, which is where this person went. It's all 45 and up, professionals, doctors, lawyers, etc. He fits right in.
yeah,
There's no culture shock.
yeah,
And there also, I think the most important part is like day to day, how life is going to show up and how we have to practice these skills in recovery in those situations is dramatically different with those people as it is, like I said, with me. Like I just kind of like I didn't fail out of college, just took a medical withdrawal, right? And I went to treatment. I was 19. Like my life is so very different. And the challenges I face are going to be very different from the ones you do in real life. They're going to look a
right,
lot different. Now, it's the same core idea, same core struggle, but how it presents itself is going to be so different. You're just not going to bond, relate, or learn, in my opinion. So the
mhm,
goal was kind of like, how do we make this match.com basically to
yeah.
find the right people to fit them with the right thing that they actually need, all of which is covered by their insurance so that they're not going to get gouged for a $40,000 out of pocket at a local Illinois treatment facility that will not be named.
Now, what if somebody doesn't have insurance? Does that mean they can't go, or would they be able to go to the facility and maybe get some state funding for insurance?
So I would say that's what I'm most proud of that we've done from the beginning is that we've always had like a very strict mantra, like you will not be here, work here, participate, or be close to us in any way if you don't provide the same experience for everyone that calls. Whether they have no money, homeless, I don't care. Because at the end of the day, they receive the same experience and just decency, which is what
Mhm,
how it should be. Unfortunately, is not how it is
right,
across the board, but we do it differently to help everyone no matter what. We've built up a number of there are, I guess I take back what I said earlier. There are a few organizations we do. Sober Living of America, if they're watching this, I give them a bravo. Phenomenal. We work with them closely. So people that are of the indigent population, lower socioeconomic part of the ladder, if you don't have money, access to resources, maybe you don't even have state funded insurance. Like that's one of the best places. They'll help you get a job. They do so much and we work closely with them. So like we've put together now a network on both sides, whether you have like insurance through your job or you have insurance through the state or none, to where you're going to get to the best of our ability full access to every bit of care that you need from inpatient through outpatient and sober living across the board. So I'm most proud, I think, that we put together is like because what would happen in the beginning is once the like state and local organizations found out we helped everyone, and once the private treatment centers in our area found out we helped everyone, they would dump everything on us
mm,
because there's no financial benefit for them.
mhm.
Now, neither for us. They're funded by the government. We're not. So you could argue it's kind of their job, but is what it is, man. If you
So
if
to
you
run
got the
your
lifeboat,
business,
you can't not
oops,
pass them. Sorry, what?
sorry, do you look for people to help fund what you do? Do
We're
you?
not very good at it yet. I've struggled with that because we early on got a few opportunities that had a lot of strings attached that were just kind of counter to our ethical beliefs of again like helping everyone and doing the right things because like we have to be certain way. It's just what we believe. It's like I'm gonna stay clean if I help it. I know that. So that's what I do. We've recently, so Team Toyota Maryville, shout out, they see this, made a huge check to us. Unbelievable honor to help us build out our peer recovery program. So huge win. And a few other people at some events. So look, we've been getting better at it, but we're always open to it. We've been getting a lot better at it. We've been doing the work this whole time for 7 years. It's not like, hey, we want to try something. It's like we've already been doing it. some funding help would be huge because it takes the stress off having to, operate an entirely different business to fund having a helpline that's just accessible as close to 24/7 as we can.
So if anybody listening would like to make a donation, large or small, do you take any denomination?
I don't, $1 is more than I had yesterday. So
Okay.
anything and everything is appreciated.
How would they send that to you?
So I just put the link in there. It's neveralonerecovery.com/foundation. It tells a lot about what we do as a whole and what the funding goes towards, who are the people we're helping, how are we helping them, and then has a little red donate button on there that can be done securely through PayPal. So no, your personal information is protected. And you can
Nice.
donate with PayPal, with a credit card, anything, any and all donations. 100% of those funds currently go towards services offered. So until we get enough donations that we can, like, say, hire some more people or have an office, then until then, 100% of those monies will go towards getting people the Ubers to get to treatment, getting them in treatment, buying them clothes when they get there, providing and supplying Narcan and training for that, and a few other things.
Oh, that's awesome. That's really good. So as we wrap up, any words of wisdom that you want to leave the listeners with?
Oh, I mean, the easy one is like, don't quit before the miracle happens. I think it's like, it's a time-based game. And, but I will say that I just always looked at it as like, when I'm using, I have the guarantee of probably nothing. When I'm clean, I have at least the guarantee of an opportunity to do something. So it's like, everyone's got a dream deep down beneath it all. I've accomplished a lot of mine, like bigger dreams I would have never thought, because I was just willing to delusionally believe in myself. Act as if. So that makes a 3-foot drop from your head to your heart, from knowing to belief. I can know a lot of things, but it's a lot different when I believe them. I think that's it, is I stuck around enough to believe in something. I knew it for a while, but I stuck around enough for it to become belief.
Well, you took a dream and you made it a reality for many people.
Yeah. And I'll tell you this, that psycho drive behind addiction, like where you could start the day with $0 and end up with 150, that is the greatest gift in the world. Like that drive and determination, if put in the right direction, is a wrecking ball of force to do awesome stuff that doesn't destroy everyone.
Right. Yeah. I always told my son, if you could put as much effort into living a healthy, happy life, you'll be a great entrepreneur. And, just put it in a different.
10% of that effort into it and you'll be successful. Put
Yeah.
50% in and you'll be the 1% of success.
Mind blowing.
Yeah.
So that's awesome.
So yeah.
So anybody who wants to get in touch with you, they can reach you at neveralonerecovery.com. Is that correct?
Correct. Or you can call 844-364-4445. A lot of fours in there. But yeah.
Those are signs of angels.
Oh, really?
Yeah, 444.
Interesting.
Look it up. When my son was actually, when he was in active addiction, I did a lot of work with angels, and if you see numbers like that all the time, those are messages for you.
Interesting. I know that.
Very true. All right. So as we wrap up, thank you, Austin. This was great. And again, if anybody would like to reach out, just neveralone.com. You can, Austin.
Neveralonerecovery.com.
Recovery.com. Sorry.
Yeah. They won't sell me neveralone.com. I've tried.
And Austin Wynn is the CEO. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in. If you'd like to support the Sharing Without Shame podcast, please subscribe, like, and leave a review. If you're in need of emotional support, Donna offers private sessions. For more information about Donna and the services she offers, visit www.sharingwithoutshame.com or email her at Donna, 4, support@comcast.net. Nothing in the Sharing Without Shame podcast is intended to establish a therapist-patient relationship or intended to replace the services of a trained therapist, doctor, or health professional, or substitute for professional mental health, medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Until next time, may your faith and strength heal your heart.